in a lotus position, with a flower garland around his neck. His chin was slightly raised as he looked over the crowd, a transcendental aristocrat, fully confident in the knowledge of Krishna that was about to share.
Hare
People
Krishna.
were, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to give chance to the devotees. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Yes, Anita Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. People were asking Srila Prabhupada's questions, and he asked them all in Hindi with the ease and confidence of authority. Some of the questions were challenging and even unpleasant. One respectable-looking middle-aged man asked, "Why are you building all these new temples when there are so many old temples needing repair?" Rather than answering him directly, Prabhupada asked the man, Who is that lady sitting next to you?" "She is my wife." "Why did you get married?" The man paused, considering how to respond. Prabhupada continued, "Putrate kriyate bharya." One accepts a wife in order to have children. But why do you want to have children when there are so many orphan children loitering in the street? Just as you want to have your own children, the devotees of the Lord want to build temples for him in order to show him their love. The men had nothing more to say. One young man whose dress identified him as coming from Bharat Sevashram Sangh, a Bengali group involved in social welfare activities, who helped when there was a flood, famine, or earthquake, asked Srila Prabhupada what he was doing to benefit the public. He asked his questions in Bengali, but Prabhupada answered in Hindi, stating that through welfare activity, the real way to benefit people was to give them Krishna consciousness. Providing people food and shelter and helping them in distress were temporary fixes that would not solve their true dilemma. The real problem, he said, would be solved only when they developed their loving relationship with Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The man asked, when people are in distress, shouldn't one go to help them? Srila Prabhupada responded that welfare help, though good, was temporary. All the people's problems would remain as long as the people remain attached to material nature. Only surrendering to Krishna could permanently free people from all material suffering by freeing them from their material bondage and elevating them to the spiritual world, which was full of endless joy. But the man could not understand Prabhupada's word of wisdom. "I asked you the question in Bengali," he challenged. "Why are you answering in Hindi when you yourself are Bengali?" Srila Prabhupada raised his voice. "Whether Bengali or Hindi, that doesn't matter," he declared. "What really matters is whether or not you understand what I am saying." The man seemed devastated, and I doubted he would ever come anywhere near ISKCON again. But years later, after Prabhupada's disappearance, I actually saw him in Mayapur. He had become a devotee.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So, where else we will get some nectar, such nectar other than from Prabhupada, that he was never short of any answer or reply as per Shastric. And even today, such answer will not come spontaneous to us. And also we hear how Guru Maharaj had tears in his eyes when he met Prabhupada, saw Prabhupada first time, his own realizations. So you can see that somebody, a special soul is meeting another special soul. Okay, so next one, Chandana Paul Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. My time at the Kumbh Mela was going wonderfully and I was feeling uplifted. 300 or so devotees had come from all over the world and I was relishing their association. One morning when I was brushing my teeth in the washroom, a young American devotee next to me gave me a sweet smile and asked who I was. I introduced myself and told him that I was from Mayapur. His name, he said gently, was Giriraj Das. He had come from Bombay. Just from that first encounter, I felt a deep appreciation for this kind devotee. Later, I learned that he was the president of the Bombay Temple. He had come from a wealthy family. His father was a high court judge in Chicago. He had met Srila Prabhupada in 1969 when he was studying at Brandeis University near Boston, and had joined ISKCON almost immediately and dedicated himself to Prabhupada's service. He had come to India and was doing his utmost to spread the movement, tolerating all kinds of hardships. His father had tried to bring him back into the fold, but none of his attempts, not even an offer of $1 million, had succeeded. Due to Giriraj Prabhu's sincerity and dedication, he became very dear to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada treated him with great affection. Every day, the devotees rose early to worship at Mangalarati, chant japa together, and then go to Srila Prabhupada's tent for Guru Puja. A devotee was leading a lively kirtan one morning during Guru Puja, and the rest of us were jumping up and down in ecstasy. Then he started to sing Bhaja Hare Krishna, and all of a sudden Prabhupada shouted to stop the kirtan. Everyone froze. The tent went silent. Where did you learn this, Bhaja Hare Krishna? Prabhupada roared. The devotee was speechless and with shock and embarrassment. Prabhupada continued, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra must be chanted just as it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nothing should be added to it and nothing should be subtracted. After Guru Puja, Srila Prabhupada would give class on Srimad Bhagavatam. He held us all in rapt attention, every word bringing new realizations, as if spiritual reality were manifest right before our eyes. After class, we would sit over breakfast and discuss our understanding of what we had heard. Then we would go distribute books. And in the evening, we would return to Prabhupada's tent for his darshan. I would just sit in the back, ecstatic, taking in the class and his presence. On the day before one of the most auspicious days for taking bath, when the three rivers turned to nectar, Srila Prabhupada expressed his desire to bathe in the Triveni. He did not want to go into the crowd, however, so he requested the devotees to go at the most auspicious hour and return with water so that he could bathe with it the following day. 2 devotees managed to reach the Triveni and return with a bucket of water. The next morning, during Prabhupada's darshan, when a senior devotee asked how his bath had been, Prabhupada thought for a moment and then replied that it was like any other bath in any water from the tap. Even though many millions of people went to the Triveni during Kumbh Mela to take their auspicious bath, he explained any service that anyone rendered anywhere in the world for the pleasure of Krishna was more auspicious. The whole atmosphere in Kumbh Mela was ecstatic, and there was one problem. The place was so crowded and noisy, even at night, that Srila Prabhupada could not work on his Srimad Bhagavatam translation and commentary. So one morning, he called his senior disciples and told them that he had decided to leave. By that time, I had accepted that I could not be physically close to Prabhupada, so I was not too disappointed. I had resolved to be content to serve him from a distance in the mood of separation. Whatever he wanted would be all right with me. I would keep on serving him no matter what. After the Bhagavatam class that day, Bhavananda Maharaj told me, Srila Prabhupada is going to leave Kumbh Mela tonight. Yes, I replied, I heard. But I was shocked by what he said next. A small group of devotees, could you scroll up, Prabhu? Will be traveling with him, and you have been included in the team. I could not believe my ears. I was so excited and happy. I practically started to dance. The thought that I would be traveling on the same train with Srila Prabhupada made me feel like the most fortunate person in the world. All I could do was thank Maharaj again and again. We left that night in a first-class carriage hooked onto a train bound for Calcutta. The entire car was for Srila Prabhupada and his entourage, 14 devotees, of whom I was one. Hundreds of devotees came to the station to see Prabhupada off, waving and offering obeisances. I stood at the carriage door waving back, relishing my good fortune. Once the train started, we all took rest. The next morning, after bathing, I was chanting in my compartment when Bhavananda Maharaj came in and said, "Come, I'll take you to Srila Prabhupada." I had been dying to meet Prabhupada ever since arriving in Mayapur. And now, as Maharaj presented me with the immediate opportunity, I felt unqualified. I was afraid that he would look right through me into my heart and see all the dirt, all the sinful activities that I had committed. He would reject me, refuse to give me his shelter. I had heard that there were devotees who had been waiting for years to be initiated by him, but had not been accepted.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'm sorry, Mataji, to interrupt, but yeah, we have to give chance to next devotees. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you.
So nicely you were reading. Yes, okay. Next is Anupa Mataji. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guruji. Bhavanand seemed to know exactly what I was feeling. He just grabbed my hand, dragged me along the corridor, opened Prabhupada's door, and pushed me in. Inside, I fell flat on the floor, offering my obeisances. When I got up, Srila Prabhupada was looking at me, smiling sweetly, and asked me to sit next to him. On the seat facing him were Jayapadaka Swami, Rameshwara Maharaj, and Bhavananda. Abhiram Das, the Calcutta temple president, was sitting on the floor. I hesitated to accept Prabhupada's offer, saying that I too would sit on the floor, but insisting, "No, you sit here." So I folded a corner of the blanket, spread over the seat, and sat on its very edge. Then, after some initial exchanges, Srila Prabhupada gave me a direct instruction: "You translate my book into Bengali." My heart was jumping with joy, but I was uncertain. "Srila Prabhupada," I said, "I do not really have experience in translating from English to Bengali. Will I be able to do it properly?" "Just do it," he assured me. "Practice makes a man perfect." When I left the room, I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I couldn't believe my good fortune. At our very first meeting, Srila Prabhupada has given me this incredible service. I knew that he considered the publication and distribution of his books to be of the utmost importance, and I had heard that because many of them had also been presented in Bengali by our previous acharyas, he was specially particular about their Bengali translations. I just kept on praying to Krishna that I could fulfill my responsibility and execute his instructions properly. When we arrived at the Calcutta temple, Srila Prabhupada was impressed with the deities, Shringar, their outfits and ornaments, who decorated them. He asked. Purna Prajna Das, the head pujari, pre-serving the deities, said it was his wife, Narayani Devi Dasi. Srila Prabhupada was very pleased and quoted a verse from Sri Guru Ashtaka, Sri Vigraha Bharadha, Nityanand Shringaratan Mandira Marjanan. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of the deities of Sri Radha and Krishna.
The devotees, Prabhupada said, in order to express their love for the Lord, decorate him in the best possible way.
Thank you, Mataji. I was reading that His Holiness Subhag Maharaj, lecture transcribed, and Maharaj said how two devotees were very special. One is Gaur Govind Maharaj and His Holiness Bhakti Charan Maharaj, because Prabhupada, in the first meeting, told both of them to translate his books. He says to Gaur Govind Maharaj also, he's told in the first meeting, you translate my books in Korea. And to Guru Maharaj also, Prabhupada told to immediately to translate. He said they were very special souls, and Prabhupada immediately recognizing them, gave them the service in the first meeting itself. Okay, so no more hands. So would anybody like to read again? Please raise your hands, or you'll be forced to hear from my poor diction. Shashi Mataji. Okay. Chandana Paul Mataji. Okay. So Shashi Mataji and Chandana Paul Mataji. So first Shashi Mataji. Just 1 second. Okay. Go ahead, Mataji.
Srila Prabhupada's stay in Calcutta was extremely busy. He knew a lot of people there, and many of them came to see him. One afternoon, a few reporters came to interview him, appreciative of his achievements in the West. Srila Prabhupada said, 1. What you have done in unprecedented in history. Has such a thing happened? Within such a short time, a spiritual movement has spread all over the world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread this movement only throughout India, but you have spread it all over the world. No, Prabhupada replied. What I have done is simply due to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and my Guru Maharaj. They have actually done everything. They simply let me have the credit. Srila Prabhupada was still meeting with several important people near the end of the long day when the evening aarti began, and he requested that they go to the temple room for worship. I left along with the others, but then it occurred to me that although I could attend the aarti every day, I would not always have the opportunity to be with his divine grace. So I returned to his room. As I carefully opened his door, Prabhupada looked up and asked, so what do you want? Srila Prabhupada, I replied, I just wanted to be with you, then come in. When I had entered and sat down, he repeated, so what do you want? My heart was pounding. Srila Prabhupada, I managed to say, will you please give me initiation? Will you please accept me as your disciple? Sure, Prabhupada replied. I will give you initiation. During the Gaura Purnima festival in Mayapur, I will give you initiation. With my heart dancing in gratitude and ecstasy, I offered my humble obeisances to my eternal spiritual master.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yes, Chandana Paul Mataji, you can start.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah. So Rachna Mataji had put in chat that she would like to read. I don't know if...
Rachna Mataji, can you hear? Oh, I didn't see the chat. Rachna Mataji?
Or I can read if...
Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. With Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur, February 7 through March 21st, 1977. One beautiful spring morning, when the sun was bathing the earth in golden rays and the air was filled with fragrance of flowers and the cooing of cuckoo birds, Srila Prabhupada arrived in Mayapur in his maroon ambassador, its stainless steel Vaishnava tilak, an auspicious spiritual marking, emblazoned on the hood. He had been to Bhuvaneshwar to lay the cornerstone of a new temple that had been developed by Gaur Govinda Swami, his sannyasa disciple from Orissa. I could have gone with him, but decided to stay behind to complete the printing of Bhagavanir Katha, which I was planning as a surprise offering to His divine grace. Devotees stood on either side of the road to greet him, chanting and dancing in jubilant anticipation. When his car appeared in the distance, the kirtan reached a crescendo, and the dancing grew wild with ecstasy. And when it stopped in front of the temple and Srila Prabhupada emerged, devotees fell flat on the ground to offer obeisances. Many broke down crying, others stood motionless, transfixed. With chanting and dancing, devotees leading the way, Prabhupada strode gracefully through the crowd into the temple. He had installed the deities, Sri Sri Radha Madhava and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, several years earlier in 1972 when he reached them. He offered his obeisances and then stood in front of the altar, gazing at their transcendental beauty. He circumambulated them 3 times and walked to the other end of the temple room, settled down on his Vyasa asana as the devotees chanted and danced before him, and remained there with his eyes closed, deep in meditation. When the kirtan stopped, Prabhupada recited the Premadhvani prayers, glorifying and offering respects to the Lord and the previous acharyas. Then he spoke about the goals of the Mayapur project. His spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, had maintained absolute conviction in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction that the Krishna consciousness movement would spread throughout the world to every town and village. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had shown how one could serve Krishna even while living in big cities and making use of motor cars and other modern amenities. He had given Srila Prabhupada the mission to spread the movement not only in India, but also throughout the world. And Prabhupada had carried on the mission with a broad vision, making all kinds of arrangements to attract different kinds of people.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. We have the last hand, last Lavanmai Radhika Mataji. You can go ahead, Mataji. Last.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Jai
Hare
Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Gurudev. Srila Prabhupada quoted a verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Eba Yeba Yara Bahir Dasya Karmana Manasya Gira Nikhalavya Apa Ashwato Jivan Muktan Sha Uchayate. A person who acts in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many apparent material activities. He pointed out that some people might feel envious upon seeing the devotees living in palatial buildings. The page, Prabhu. Can you fix the page, please? But that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had said that only the devotees should live in such opulence. Just as government servants are granted special privileges, those who serve Krishna should be given all kinds of facilities. Also, the Europeans and Americans who were coming to India to preach Krishna consciousness were not accustomed to the hardships of Indian conditions. In Mayapur, he was establishing facilities for their stay. Through ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada said he was combining Western brains and money with Indian spiritual culture. He gave the example of a lame man and a blind man. Alone, each is severely limited, but if the blind man takes the lame man onto his shoulder, then the combination of the blind man's strong legs and the lame man's good vision will enable them to achieve so much more. American, he said, was spiritually blind, while India was materially lame. But together they could spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Every morning, Srila Prabhupada would come down to the temple, have darshan of the deities after offering his obeisances, circumlating them 3 times, and then lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam. On the anniversary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appearance, he spoke about his divine spiritual master. Although I had already heard and read about him, to hear about his pastimes from Prabhupada was an astounding experience. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had been exceptionally brilliant, one of the greatest scholars of his time. His illustrious father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had trained him from childhood as a devotee, and even when he was young, he assisted his father in his preaching mission, to which he remained committed for the rest of his life. Although Srila Bhaktivinoda had revived the mission and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had not been able to spread it extensively. But Bhaktisiddhanta had established 64 temples throughout India and attracted important and educated people. Srila Prabhupada explained that a pure devotee of the Lord is not interested in his personal benefit. He is concerned only about the real welfare of others. He dedicates himself completely to guiding others on the spiritual path without caring for his own liberation. He is therefore the most munificent and the greatest philanthropist. Spiritual personalities like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were not from this world. Like the Lord himself, they came from the spiritual realm to benefit the suffering conditioned soul. And when their mission were complete, they returned. But Srila Prabhupada stated he was never separated from his spiritual master. I was reminded of an incident that had been related to me by a senior devotee. When Srila Prabhupada had returned to India from the West and had come to Mayapur to see the land that had been procured to build the temple, he had not stopped at the Samadhi tomb of his spiritual master on the way, and some of his god brothers had criticized him for that. When Srila Prabhupada had heard of their disapproval, he responded, "Do they think that I am ever separated from my spiritual master? No, he is always with me and I'm always with him. I am not separated from him even for a moment."
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you
Madhaji.
so much.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna,
much for
Dhanavad Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev.
So such nice reading, and when I hear devotees reading with the devotees reading Ocean of Mercy, I feel to have this every day, to hear this nectar. It is one thing to read alone by ourselves, and when in our God family members we read, it becomes so nectarian, and neither Bhaktivinoda Thakur nor Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur nor Prabhupada and nor his dear disciples are from this material world. They come to propagate Krishna consciousness, and we are most fortunate to be under the shelter of such transcendental personalities. So we'll end the class here, and Krishna willing, we will hear the session tomorrow again. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Dev Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshataya Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.